And I'd like to welcome everyone to the City Council this evening. It is July 12th at 7:08. We apologize for a late start. And I'd like to call and we're at Olivet City Center, 1140 Dealman Road in 63132. I'd like to have the city clerk call the roll call.
Councilmember Waldman,
Here.
Chairman Carl,
Here.
Mayor,
Here,
Councilmember Clark,
on his way,
Councilmember Knox.
excused with absent. Next item, please.
Item number 2 is communications. Mayor, we have no written communications. However, Chief Andruski has a new officer to introduce and be sworn in.
So, Madam Mayor, Council, this is our new officer, Kyle Lyon. So Kyle is graduate of, Quincy University in 2017. He was an officer with St. Louis City for about 5 years. So he comes to us with some experience from down there. His wife and family are here, his wife Marie. And the little one is also his, Morella, who is 6 months old. So that's just a little bit about Kyle. So he's started about 3 weeks ago and is doing great. So we are very happy to have him. So with that, I will. Yes, so, well, I will let you explain your old partner for the city, so it sounds like, also, so, yeah.
Well, what district would you? Give me all, because I know them all.
The third was my favorite.
Okay.
That's where the two of them were going together, so. All right, perfect.
I, Kyle Lyon, Kyle Lyon, do solemnly swear
I, Kyle Lyon, do solemnly swear
that I possess all qualifications
that I possess all qualifications
to serve as a police officer for the city of Olivet,
to serve as a police officer for the city of Olivet,
St. Louis County, Missouri,
St. Louis County, Missouri,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Missouri
and the state of Missouri
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Olivet,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Olivet,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of this office
the duties of this office
by abiding by the law enforcement code of ethics.
by abiding by the law enforcement code of ethics.
I recognize the badge of my office
I recognize the badge of my office
as a symbol of public faith,
as a symbol of public faith,
and I accept it
and I accept it
as a public trust to be held and honored.
as a public trust to be held and honored.
Have you signed it after? So you're gonna pin them? That's quite an honor. And welcome.
I want to get some photos with your family and friends and with the mayor and the chief first, I guess. Be happy to swear in your friend next week.
Please reflect on the, reflect on the record that Councilmember Clark is here. I did. Next item, please.
Item number 3 is city manager's report.
Evening. The first regular meeting of the month, so we have updates on the our park and our community center projects. The park improvement dashboard is before you. The contractor is now they've started work, they're finishing up work kind of in Stacy Park. They've started some work at Villa, and they've started taking down some trees at Indian Meadows. And there you can kind of see the proposed schedule as it stands. And also then what they've been up to and what they'll be up to in the next coming weeks. In the parks, we don't have too many submittals or requests for information out hanging. They've been pretty quick at getting responses back when there is a question, so that's worked out pretty well. And then with the contingencies, again, the contingencies and the allowances, each of these projects has an unforeseen condition allowance, and that is for basically for the work that could happen with the soils. Tends to do soil remediation if we have soils that come back with the testing that it won't be able to compact to the degree necessary. And so those are separate allowances. And then we have the owner's contingency, which is actually just typically a percentage of the overall contract. And thus far, we've used in the contingency for the parks. And again, this is for Stacy, Villa, Irvside, and Indian Meadows. Warson Park contract is with the community center. We've used 51,000 of the contingency with the remaining. We don't have any anticipated changes out there. And then with a remaining contingency of about 85,000, we started with 130, almost 137. And again, we still also with our unforeseen conditions, we have an anticipated change of about 30,000. Again, that's going to be for some of the soil, or that might be for we have some soil amendments. We also have some work happening on the splash pad in Villa Park. It then tells you where we are with pay applications, our MBE, WBE participation. And then what are the risks that the owner has? There's always a schedule risk with weather impacts, although I think we seem to be hitting the hot months with not as much rain. And then the budget risks are Villa Park, the splash pad is as we talked about with the splash pad there. We're looking at a different way of draining the splash pad. That splash pad was originally, we thought we would be able to do it with some swales as well as pumping it out into certain areas. We've determined that there's going to be too much water, and it really should go to an MSD outlet. And so that we're working on that. And then these are some photos of what's going on. Indian Meadows, the trees. If you haven't been to by Stacy, it's worth going out and looking at that. I think that's looking really nice. They've got a lot of the trails paved. Villa Park, that is they're removing the one of the trails or kind of that one end of a loop, and they'll be putting in a new trail there. We are probably keeping one of the, if you are aware of how Villa Park, their trail structure goes, it's kind of a big loop, but then it also kind of comes up the center, and they're keeping part of that. We're hoping that the new pavilion at Stacy Park, it may come in a week or two early. And so that will be good, allow us to kind of get that in and get that park going. So excited about that. The community center and Morrison Park, again, this is the new community center, Morrison Park. And also in this, we have our GRG Centennial Greenway section that runs through Morrison Park. Again, this schedule had been more impacted by some of the weather that we had. Again, the project was started and the notice to proceed was in October of 21. So they've gone through a winter, and they've gone through we've had that little rainy season at the beginning of the year. The foundations at the community center are 100% complete. The gymnasium CMU is 100% complete. The maintenance facility, as you recall, the maintenance facility used to be the house that was on the hill there. That's been taken down, and a new maintenance facility is being built in the lower lot of the current or original community center. And so that foundation has been done. The loop path, which is different from the greenway. This is a path that kind of goes around the ball field area. 75% done, and then we have site utilities. Again, you can see what the upcoming work is. We have we have some outstanding RFIs and submittals. Although, again, we've been trying to respond to they've been responding to the RFIs pretty quickly. You can see where we are with with some of our PCRs, which are some changes that are out there, possible change requests. So you can see kind of what those are out that we're still working on. And then you see the contingencies and the allowances. Again, the unforeseen conditions, that's more for the soil work. And we started with 200,000 as an allowance there. We've used about 80. We have a remaining of 120, although we have an anticipated of almost 18,000 more for that work. And again, that tends to be more of the soils and the condition of the soils and how it's compacting. The owner held contingencies, again, we started with about 530. Thus far, we've used about 67,000. So that leaves us with a balance of 460. Tonight, you have a couple of change orders before you, and so you'll be asked to you'll be given some information on those and asked to approve those. And you can see that we have anticipated changes of about 352,000. That's a lot more than where we were when we showed this in June, and that's just because we have more information. Some of the things that you saw, or some of the things that have been out here, we haven't had really enough to know what that possible cost could be. And one of the things I can tell you with these anticipated changes, again, these are things that what happens is there's a request for information, or there's a change, or there's, something happens, there's some new information, and they say, this may cost a little bit more, right? And what happens is they'll put that, they'll ask, first of all, they'll say this situation, then they'll say, we'll get a response of, this is how we propose to fix it. The KAI, so that's Wright Construction is usually kind of doing that. KAI will then Navigate will kind of give feedback on that and say, yeah, we agree, yeah, we don't agree, and they'll talk about how to fix it. And then we'll get an estimated price. And that price may include both the cost of an item, of purchasing something, materials, or also, and it could also include some days if it's going to take extra days to do this. And what you're seeing here are these anticipated changes. They haven't been approved yet. Okay, they're going to be coming forward. Are they going to stay at this rate? They may or may not. Again, what we're trying to do in this dashboard, and Navigate develops and provides us with this dashboard each month. What they're trying to do is give us the most current information that you can have. So that, you know, what we don't want to have is we sit here today and I tell you we have 460,000 in contingency. And then in 2 weeks, I come back with a $200,000 change request. And you say, well, what the heck, when did this happen? Right. And so the idea tonight is that we have a couple of folks from Navigate, who is our Navigate Building Solutions. They're our project manager, our management team. And then from KAI, we have a representative, and they're here to kind of talk about, you know, what some of these changes might be. And so you'll hear about that when we get to the change order section. So again, these aren't written in stone. These are still being negotiated. They're still being, sometimes there's something, some of these items may be what we've been told by Wright Construction is this is the pricing we've gotten, and Navigate looks at that and they may be pushing back on that. Some of these may just be Navigate's estimate of what a situation is. They've not gotten anything from Wright Construction, and they're saying, okay, but we know there's an issue. We think it may cost about this much. And again, I can tell you that number changes pretty frequently, and it changed from 9 a.m. this morning to 4 p.m. this afternoon because we got more information, right? So again, these are estimates and best guess, and you know, I don't want to say best guess because these are the professional who have worked in the field and are making these estimates. But I also have to say, I don't know if anybody's worked in this field in a time like this right now, with both supply chain issues, increases in costs. I would think we've all worked in times when there's been inflation, but it's been the supply chain issues have also kind of changed the world in which we're working. You can see where we're at with our pay applications, our MBE and our WBE participation, and then the owner's risk. Again, you can see that we have a foundation construction claim, and that's one of those changes that we're kind of going back and forth on with the charges. We have some revisions in the steel shop drawings. Again, those the costs that are involved in that are in these anticipated changes. So everything you see in these owners' risks, almost everything you see, we have some type of estimate for in those changes. The indoor playground equipment, this is kind of wild. It's actually maybe coming in this week. Don't know where we're going to put it. Bruce McGregor has been working on that, and that's the world we live in. You know, you don't know what lead time is going to be on something. You know, it's like the pavilion. We you know, we're hoping it'll be in by September, or, you know, we'll get it in September, and well, now it's going to might be a couple weeks early, and then there's always that, well, might be, and then and so when you have the opportunity to get something in, we're allowing deliveries, and we're accepting deliveries. Although it does cause some issues because now we have this. This was an owner provided piece for the facility, and so it's our responsibility to make sure that it's stored in a place where it won't get damaged or whatever can happen to an indoor playground structure. And then we have some, One of the things I do want to say, we have owner's responsibility abatement RFQ for the existing community center. We may touch on this a little bit, but later, but one of the things that we're looking at, because of some delays in the community center with or potential delays, I think I've told you before, we're looking at a March end of construction sometime in March. When that happened, Navigate, as our project manager, said, well, how can we keep things moving? Because the initial plan had been we'd finish up the community center and then we'd move into demoing the old community center, and then we put the new splash pad in, because splash pad is going to be on where part of the existing community center is. Well, they came up with the idea, well, if we can probably keep this moving and save some time and do these projects kind of at the same time and start the demolition of the community center maybe a little earlier than we thought. That results in, well, what do we do with our people and our programming? Staff's been working on that, trying to figure out where we might put people. That's not written in stone yet. That again has to be negotiated amongst all the players. But we do think that may save us some time. And again, that's another reason that you have these professionals on board that are helping you look at other ways. So, okay, so think outside the box. We have this issue. How do we solve it? We can't solve it directly, but we can probably work around it. And so we think that we can keep the plan had been to stop programming in October, I think. October, is that it, Beverly? And so we may, if we move out a little bit early, we may be able to maintain some programming here. And again, those are the things that we're looking at.
Before you go to the next screen, are you done? Because I have a couple
I'm done.
questions. Okay. First off, could you just remind me what the initials CMU stand for? Under work completed to date, community center gymnasium, CMU 100%.
CMU, what is CMU? It's the bricks. Concrete masonry units. They're the big old bricks that are building the walls.
Okay. 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 And you just said something I wanted some clarification on, but I done forgot it already. You just mentioned something, but it comes back. I'll
Okay.
ask you later.
I will show the pictures. Those are CMUs. And then that's part of the loop, I believe. Yeah. So those are just pictures from the community center and from Morrison Park. With that, I was looking for other things kind of to talk about. We've started the program. They've started the concrete pour at Jacqueline. But I got to tell you, things right now we've started our new fiscal year. I think everybody's just still really excited about that. At this point, it's we're having a little opportunity to kind of get caught up on some things and just keep moving with a lot of the work that we have going on. So we do have our new Coffee with the Mayor series with the Mayor Weil. That'll be tomorrow at 8:45 a.m. Her first guest is Chief Andreski. Chief Andreski is going to talk a little bit about herself, a little bit about the police department, and also show our new body worn cameras, how they work, how they're used, and answer any questions that you might have on that. Anything at all, bring any questions you have. And then we have the Park and Recreation Commission is July 20th, 7 p.m. Planning and Community Design Commission is July 21st at 7 p.m. That's also part of the reason we don't have quite as much as the Planning Commission took a week off. The next regular city council meeting is July 26th. We have Starry Nights at Warson Park, and we do want to make sure people know that's at Warson. A lot of times we have that at Stacy Park. That would do the construction there will be at Warson. That's August 6th from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And that's been really kind of having those stargazing events have been very popular. and a really diverse section of the community, ages and everything. It's really interesting. Olivet Fire Department has the MDA Fill the Boot. That'll be there. Each shift has a day. So it's July 29th, August 5th, August 19th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. They are typically at the corner of Price and Olive. I'm not sure if that's going to work right now with other things that are going on. But we can let you know, unless Parker, you know where it's going to be. That's the plan? Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, you'll find them. They'll be the guys with the boot in the middle of the road. With that, happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
I just want to ask a question for Starry Night. Will there be the telescopes out there? How many? Yeah. Okay, okay. Okay. For those that might be listening later on, not now, that's really a fun situation.
Are there any more questions from council members? Next item, please.
Item number 4 is city council reports.
I'll start to my right with Chairman Pro Tem, Greg Carl.
Thank you. I have attended no meetings. There's just a couple things I want to say. One, I will remind you again of looking at the last EDC meeting video. That was just an amazing set of compliments the city got from the contractor. And so if you haven't seen it, I would recommend you look at it. The one other thing is I've just recovered from starting the party for the new fiscal year. So thank you.
It's one of Darren's favorite times
A
of the
little
year.
Darren humor. Councilmember Waldman.
As the city manager so mentioned, there was no planning community design commission. They had a break, and so I have nothing to report at this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Councilmember Clark.
I attended no meetings at this time, so I have nothing to report.
Okay. Thank you. And I did not attend any additional meetings during this last 2 weeks either. So. Next item, please.
Item number 5 is hearing from citizens.
I do have some cards tonight for those of you that wish to speak. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and address and and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Be a very long meeting, to 3 minutes, and at the 1 minute mark, Denise will give you a 1 minute reminder. So, with no further ado, we'll get started with Ronald Wyndham. Over here. And Denise, you need to push the gray button. Great.
Okay. My name is Ronald Wyndham. I'm at 9649 Huron in Indian Meadow subdivision. And my concern is the use of the playground. Rather than turning it into a playground, our concern is that it's becoming a public park. And we feel as though that jeopardizes the safety of our children because it's designed for small children. And we're noticing that adults are making use of it, and that's concerning to us. Thank you.
And that's the, Mr. Wyndham, they're making use of the adults are on the equipment, is that what
No,
you're
they're
saying?
making use of the grounds with their own activities, adult activities, smoking and
Can you give me an
recreation
example?
and teenage type recreation.
Oh, teenagers, okay,
Well, adults also,
okay.
yeah. And it's leaving us to have to clean up. My neighbors have to clean up behind them. And like I said, our primary concern is that this is a facility for children. And if we send our children to play, we want to have some idea that they're safe. and not being exposed to just the general public coming into our neighborhood.
Thank you. Denise Littleton. I'm sorry, Dennis. Sorry for that.
It's all right. My name is Dennis Littleton. I live at 9639 Huron. I have some concerns about the pavilion and the park next door to my house. I was told originally when they first put the pavilion next to my house by the mayor at the time was Jean Antoine, was told that that was going to be, it was supposed to be a private pavilion only used for the citizens in Olivet or Indian Meadows. Over the last couple of years, it's been used by general public as free public. We've had incidents where we've had a WashU group of students showed up one day on a Saturday. And it was a good 80 to almost 100 teenagers, well, young youths out there. And they had a big party in the park, leaving trash behind. We've had several instances like that. I've even had incidents where I've had people come knock at my door asking, can they plug in extension cord so they can get electricity over there so they can play loud music. This has happened on several occasions. Now, my neighbors and I have trash blown up in our yard, going over there, picking up behind them because our kids go over there and play out every day. There's been cigarette wrappers, wine bottles, everything you can think of has been over there. The trash has been overwhelming. But like I said, my wife has talked to a couple of groups who had, there was one lady who she lives in North County, had a party there last Saturday, I believe. And she had a good 30-something people over there, had a boom box and everything. My wife talked to the lady. She said that she found out about the park. She called the park restoration department.
There's 1 minute left.
And she asked about whether which she could rent a pavilion, and they told, oh, well, there's a free one over in Indian Meadows Park. You can go, you just show up, first one there gets to use it. I don't think that that's appropriate.
That's
to be
not the
letting general
policy, but
public.
thank you for sharing that. That's not the policy.
Well, this is what the lady told me.
Okay, go on. Thank
And
you.
it's the same thing with the WashU students. They said, oh, we just found it, we called it and they told us it was free. So we just showed up. Called the Parks Department.
Okay, so during the hearing from citizen, we're not supposed, we usually just listen and don't interact. But the fact that you're sharing this with us tonight, and the director of the Parks and Recreation Department and the police chief are both here, they'll make note and we'll look into all of them. Thank you. Those aren't the policies. Next one is Maya Elkanah.
Hi, my name is Maya Elkanah and I live at 9697 Huron Drive. So I'm all the way up at the top of the hill from the park, and I'm also just wanting to comment on the park. Since I live up at the top of the hill, you can't see the park from where I live, but I have 2 small children who do walk down there to play with their friends, and we love it. It's wonderful. But we have had a lot of just random folks using it. And from my perspective, there's, as Dennis, as my neighbors have mentioned, some issues with that, but also there's not a lot of parking on Huron. It's a private street. It's the back of the subdivision. And so there'll be cars all up and down. And so that's always kind of an issue as well. When the only group that I've spoken to was a group of WashU students, and I went to WashU, and so I was like, oh, do all these kids live in this neighborhood? And I went up to them. I was like, oh, hey, all, what are y'all doing here? And they were polite, they were fine, but they told me like, oh yeah, we wanted to get, I think they said that they wanted to get Villa Park or something like that, but someone told them that instead that they could come to this park, that it was free, that it was available, that they should go there instead. And I didn't think that that was a policy, so it's good to hear that it's not the policy, but it
We're
was
gonna
like,
clarify that.
but clarifying that would be nice, just because they were parked all up and down the street. And so that's something that, especially, we don't have sidewalks. We live in a neighborhood that was built in the 50s, and it's, it is what it is. And I love my neighborhood. But the kids are always walking up and down the street. And so, we always want to be careful and make sure that folks are, I don't know, I think that the folks who live there, they know that the kids are there. And so I'm always a little bit worried for me as a mom that if we've got a bunch of people who are not from that neighborhood, they don't know that. So, and with all the cars on the street, it's also, it makes it so it feels like, I don't know, makes me feel a little bit like it's not as safe. I don't know. But, so that's also something that I'm a little bit concerned about as well, in addition to the things that my neighbors shared earlier. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lueda Buckles.
Wade Buckles, 9638 Huron. I also voiced the opinion, the same sentiments of my neighbors. And ever since that park, originally when I moved there, it was a playground. Over the years since I've been there, they've turned it into a pavilion and a park. Even we have traffic there all the time, even people coming from Ferguson and Florissant on buses where they have lunch over there. They have a group that comes on the bus, they get out, and then they have other traffic. Now, I inquired about the park being taken off of the internet because people can go and Google on the internet. And when they see this park and it's free, they migrate over there. If there's an emergency, they're not going to be able to get down the street because cars are parked on both sides of the street. My other concern is about speeding going up and down Huron. If there could be some speed bumps or something put there, it would help a lot. And over in that park, even all times of the night, you end up calling police. And when you call the police, a lot of times they're very nasty. They ask you all kinds of questions. You tell them, and they want to question you about this instead of coming to check out the situation. We've had all kinds of incidents. We've had fire over in the park. We've had fighting in the cul-de-sac. And the thing of it is, when you bring people from all over the nation to that little park, they migrate and they bring other people also. And in the wintertime, it doesn't matter summer or winter, we've had kids walking on top of the restrooms. Sometimes the restrooms are left open all night long. And we've had all kinds of situations. That park has caused a whole lot of problems. And by us, none of you live on Huron. We get this activity all the time. And like I told someone, I'm not an employee of City of Olivet, but I feel like with eyes and with some of the other
There's 1 minute left.
employees, that it's really horrible. It's horrible. And with this new situation that you're bringing through there, that means it's going to be more activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Buckles. At this time, I'm going to call on the city manager to give a brief response, because I made a, I didn't say it right. I had a misunderstanding.
Okay. All of our parks are public parks. They're all open to the public, and they're open to and we as a public entity can't say you public can't use this park. So they're all open to the public. And this is my understanding. My understanding has been Indian Meadows, we acquired these parks in different ways. Okay. Stacy Park is through an agreement with the city of St. Louis. Warson Park is a combination of ways that we received that through federal grants, through donations, through purchasing. We've received Irvside and Villa, I think were both grants, land use conservation grants. Indian Meadows Park, my understanding is we received it with the subdivision. Is that correct? Dan? Not at the beginning. No, it was its own place there. And then the city was, I believe, asked to take it over. Right. So we sold lots. The city has a couple lots there. And so we have a park there. That history, I think, has made it more complex with regard to how it's getting used. When the pavilion went up, and why the pavilion is where it's at, I'm not sure. I don't think it's necessarily the best place. I understand it's by, there's a little drive there, gives you a little more space. Right, too close to people's homes, I would agree. But it's there now. And all of our other parks that have pavilions, we charge, they get rented. There's a charge. People, they'll rent it. It's reserved. And there has been a reluctancy to make a charge, to charge anything for that pavilion. There's nothing that would prohibit, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was still on that for the people at home. There's nothing that will prohibit the city from doing that. And that is how you would always know who's there, because people would reserve it. And that's how you know where other people are. Now this idea of people saying, well, it's free, use this park. That would be one way that conversation could go. The other way that conversation can go is, I'd like to rent a pavilion. What park? Oftentimes people aren't sure. Usually they'll say Stacy, and Stacy is almost always booked. And then, because these are usually people who aren't planning ahead far enough. And then they'll say, well, what about, and we'll offer blah, blah, blah. And then they'll say, well, do you have one? Well, we have Indian Meadows, which is a first come, first serve. It's free, but it's first come, first serve. We don't typically, our marketing isn't such, I hope it isn't such that we are telling people about the freebie first. But I think that's how it happens. I totally get the fact that, if you have a big group there, you don't like it if there is, now I understand the WashU people came. I also understand they cleaned up after themselves and they were pretty nice. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I was told. And so I'm not sure how to fix this. I'm not sure how to address this, because realistically, there is no way we can always go and say, where do you live? And kick people who don't live here out, or who don't live in the neighborhood out, because I'm not even sure what the neighborhood would be. I understand some of those issues. I also understand, limited parking. I get that. We have limited parking at Irvside and at Villa as well. We have issues there. So I do very much encourage, if there is a group, and I encourage this at any park, if there is a group that's getting out of hand, please call 911. And Lloyd, I hear you that when I call, they ask me a lot of questions. Well, that's our dispatch. And what dispatch is doing, they're trying to figure out who do they send, how many do they send, and those types of things. And so if you have a negative interaction with a dispatcher, let me know. Let me know. That is a service we pay for. But we will send there. If there is a mess, there's a lot of trash there, please call dispatch and have an officer go, and the officer will contact our parks people. We pay people we pay a company to clean the parks on the weekend. To pick up. And so that should be happening. The bathroom doors are locked by the police department at what time? Okay, so dusk or dark to about 5 a.m. And they do it at 5 a.m. right before shift change. That's why that is there. There may be times when that gets missed. It shouldn't get missed. But there are times when it could be. Human error is going to always be human error. If there are loud, again, the main thing I can say is if there are loud groups, if there are, you need to let us know. We do have people on the road. You know, I've heard it said that, you know, nobody is, you know, police never come by. You know, we can make more direct the patrols more to go by there. We try to drive by the parks. Indian Meadows is a little bit different. It's if they're at the pavilion, they're easier to see. That's one of the good parts about where the pavilion is. But there are a lot of parts of Indian Meadows you can't see from the road. Same is true of Warson Park. Most of Warson you can't see. And so that's, I would gladly work with you to try to figure something out, but you know, I think as we're talking about fees, your council had a work session. We talked about fees for the community center. We're going to talk about fees for the parks. I think that's a time that maybe the council should think about that. And, you know, that would be a great time to have feedback into it. So that's all I have, Mayor.
So I would like to clarify that the parks with the pavilions where we do have a rental fee, there is a resident and a non-resident fee structure, and it's significantly different. So that is
No,
Put your mic.
So there isn't a fee for the Indian Meadows
No.
Pavilion. Is there one for Villa?
yes,
Why?
as I said before, that had came up when there has been a reluctance from the Indian Meadows trustees for there ever to be charges for that park. That has been something that the council has not imposed. And I think we should.
But if their trustees are willing to revisit it, let's revisit it.
It's the council's decision.
Okay.
Okay. Let me-
In conjunction, yes, you can do, but we don't ask other neighborhoods, would you like us to?
Oh, I thought you
charge
said
for
there
your
was an
bill.
agreement.
No, no, sorry.
If I may, I thoroughly understand how you feel. I grew up by Villa Park and there was a basketball court there. And during that summer when I was a kid, we had a bunch of older boys start playing on that basketball court there. And they ran the smaller kids off. Okay. And it got so bad that we had to take down the basketball post and end it so that the other kids who lived in that neighborhood couldn't come. Stuff like what you're talking about is going to bring down this community. I feel your pain. When it comes up to our group to vote for it, you have my word. I will vote to make sure that we have a fee so that your park is treated just like all the other parks. I don't like to hear what you guys talk about. That bothers me. Go ahead, say what you have.
No, you can't. You have to come back up and you're gonna
Come
have to
up here.
refill out a form. Yes, it's part of the hearing. You can do it afterwards, Maya. Yeah, you can do it afterwards, and I know you also want to speak. And
I have a question, because, so I think it sounds like from what you were saying, City Manager Sontag, that makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the big things is that there is not parking there, right? It's just right next to people's houses. And a fee or not a fee, that is not I don't have a dog in that show. I don't know what the analogy is actually. I don't care about that. But I'm wondering if there were some type of like sign up process, because just having to just call the police to come deal with it all the time seems like a poor use of our resources and their time maybe. But I'm wondering like if one of the things that I think I would appreciate would just be if there were a registration for it. And I know that what I've heard from some of my neighbors who were around when they first built the park, we bought our house just after they built the pavilion. So I remember it was a big deal in the neighborhood around that time. But they were saying, well, they promised us that it would only be available for use for Olivet residents, right? And I'm wondering, like you said, because like I've reserved the pavilion at Villa, right? And I've reserved pavilion at Stacy for groups and things like that. And I know that they have a different fee structure for a resident or non-resident of Olivet. Even if there were just a way of saying, instead of being first come first, like if there were a way of saying, hey, if you want to sign up for it, you have to sign up for it. We at least have to know who you are. And if the city promised the neighbors when they built that pavilion that it would be only available to use for Olivet residents, and if or I don't know about that, this is all different things getting into the nitty gritty of it, but even just having it be something that people have to sign up to use feels like that would be helpful, because then we know,
There's
right?
1 minute.
Well, like I said earlier, we've got
So that's
both the park director here, Parks and Recreation Director here, and the police chief here tonight. And I
Yeah.
think that this will lead to some conversations, and we will do some follow-up.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. And I'll fill out a card.
Okay. Okay, and then,
Mayor?
yes,
I want to make one comment. Just want to remind everybody that our streets are not private. We went into the NID, we paid for the NID, the city owns the streets, not us.
Mrs. Buckles, and then we're gonna, and then. Okay, and then we'll move on with the next agenda item.
Okay. Missy just said the city owns the streets. So could you explain to us what it's meant when you say the city owns the streets?
For umpteen years,
Okay,
we all paid the
Okay.
$270 a year.
okay,
After we got our streets fixed, because we joined the NID, the Neighborhood Improvement District.
okay,
And in doing that, we turned our streets from private to public. The city owns it. And the remark was made, Huron is a private street. So I just wanted that fact
okay,
clarified.
okay,
That is all.
okay.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, the problems that we are having seem like they can be resolved. And especially the speed, it's like Huron is a speed bump. They come through their speeding. We've called the policemen about that. And like I say, I know you say you paid for the dispatcher. Well, could you pass on to them to be a little bit nicer? Because some of them are very nasty. And instead of giving their names, a lot of times all they want to say is their number. I've got one more thing to say, getting off of that. Is there B&B, which is bed and breakfast, going on in Olivet and Indian Meadows?
I don't know the
That's,
answer to that.
that's,
a
that's
different-
my other
right,
situation
That's
too.
another conversation.
Yeah,
for
that's another
day.
conversation because that's what I've been told. Okay, B&B.
B&B.
I'm finished.
Okay. Sandra Hardy, thank you. The lady in orange. Thank you.
Andrew Hardy, and I live 9632 Huron. And I guess I've lived out here for about 20-something years. And like my neighbor said, it started out like a playground. My kids grew up over there. Now I don't know, I don't really feel that safe. We have cars that park there late at night. We don't know what's going on. We call the police and they come, but then the car don't leave. So we don't know why is the car still there? We've had cars breaking into in our driveway. You know, it seems like this park is bringing so much crime. No, and that's hurtful because we have a nice neighborhood. And we have little kids that play there. So I don't know, like, you can rent a park in St. Anne. It's organized, just like she said. Can they register? Can you at least have their name so that there's some accountability?
That's what the rental fees are about. When you charge this fee, they're renting the park.
Or are you gonna rent it to the residents too,
They
though?
get resident, I said earlier, there's a resident fee and a non-resident fee. And you get it for specific hours. And there's specific guidelines about how you find it and how you leave it. And that's done with all the others. So if you go to the website and you read about the pavilions and the others, that you'll see that. And then, so what we'll do, we will look into Indian Meadows.
Cause see, it's
But
it's a difference between playing in the park with kids playing in the park
We,
and big parties.
we understand. So, but like I said, the police chief is here tonight and I'm sure that she'll be following up and some of these cars after dark shouldn't be there. And
Yeah,
we'll look into
cause I
everything.
mean, you said
So
our
thank-
streets are private, which, I mean, our streets are public, but when it comes to the criminals, then we're the ones that have to watch out for
Mhm.
each other.
Mhm.
So,
Thank
and
you.
that's scary.
Yes, it is. Thank you for sharing. All right. Go to the next item. But thank you for bringing this to our attention and we will look into it. And we have your names and numbers in the email, so thank you.
Item number 6 is approval of council goals and priorities 2022-2023.
Mayor, as you and the council are well aware, you've been working on these for quite a while. These do not change the overall arching goals of the city that you've established for the city, but these are your internal priorities and goals. And typically we each year the council will make a motion to approve the goals as identified for the fiscal or for the year 2022 to 2023.
And can we notate that for those that you are listening or looking at them, we have set this year internal goals and external goals. And we had a workshop back in May where we did some work to help define what our goals should be. And then we had a follow-up special meeting, and then we also addressed it at, I believe, 2 additional workshops. We put a lot of thought and effort into this. And when it says champion, that means each one of us on the council has taken the responsibility to help make sure that these get implemented so that we can achieve these goals during the upcoming year. And already for some of them, there are RFPs and RFQs out there for them. So it's a very exciting time for these. We have some wonderful goals set for the new year. I would be happy to entertain a motion if there aren't any questions.
It's just a motion to approve the goals.
Second.
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Carl,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 7 is approval of council rules of procedure 2022.
Again, the council has at their last work session, looked at the rules of procedure for 2022. I will note, I have a little bit of formatting I still need to do that wasn't, there's one section that needs to be just, the formatting is off a little bit. And I'll get that corrected. And it's rule 5 here and 6. Some of these just need some added notes here so that they all have the italicized. Again, your rules of procedure of how you operate are the rules that you use that guide the meetings that the council has, along with ordinances and along with the charter.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I know that everyone received last week a updated version, the Robert's Rules brief. And I believe that that's notated in here as well.
Yes.
That,
The only new section that was added, or a new section was added, just to say it out loud. And that is the process by which the city manager is evaluated each year. It was being done, it just wasn't noted in the rules.
Thank you. I will be happy to entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we approve our rules of procedure for 2022.
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman.
Yes.
Chairman Carl,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Next item, please.
Item number 8 is approval of Wright Construction proposed change orders, PCO 21 and PCO 22 totaling 300. Oh, I think I added an extra one. I think it's $31,955,000 for the Community Center Marston Park Improvement Project.
As I said in the city manager's report, I'm going to ask Katie if you want to, Katie Ahold is with Navigate Building Solutions. She's been the primary project manager for this project. And she's going to talk a little bit about the purchase orders that are in front of you.
Thank you. As city manager Sondag, my name is Katie Ahold. I'm with Navigate Building Solutions, working on both the park improvements projects and the community center projects. One thing I wanted to touch on before we get into the details specifically of this change order for this evening is just the process that Barb mentioned earlier. She mentioned that we're showing an overall increase in the utilization of the project contingency. And what I wanted to touch on is really defining the anticipated changes. So as she mentioned, we identify a change. We track this as a potential risk to the project. We assign an anticipated value of that risk, and that's what you're seeing kind of forecasted on that project dashboard. What we're bringing here tonight for approval are costs that have been validated and formally submitted by our Wright as our general contractor. Just want to iterate that Navigate and the design team continue to work with the contractor to mitigate these costs where possible. We try to negotiate fair values for any changes that are required before we bring those forward as change orders for your approval. So with that, I'll touch a little bit on the change order that we're bringing here for you tonight. This is a change order in the amount of $31,955. The first portion of this PCO 21 is associated with some change to the HVAC diffusers. This was done in coordination with a mechanical contractor to provide a similar performing air device that was specified in the base bid documents, but in this case, it was due to availability and kind of material supply chain issues. The second portion of this change is related to athletic flooring revisions. This is specific to the fitness area of the building. During the design process, we evaluated many materials, colors, finishes, and this change is a result of the final material pricing related with the color selection. So the total of this change itself is $14,049. The second portion of this change order, PCO 22, is related to sandstone breaking. This is one of those unforeseen conditions that Barb mentioned. So as the contractor was installing the sewer lines and manholes, we got to a depth where they encountered some rock, and that rock had to be removed in order to proceed with the installation of those lines. So unforeseen conditions here in the amount of $17,906.
I would like to just.
What is sandstone breaking?
So sandstone is the rock. So the soil typically has multiple layers, and the deeper you go, you get to rock at a certain level. So in this case, it was sandstone. It's a type of fragile rock that had to be really chipped out with equipment in order to install the piping.
Any other questions?
If I could just
Yeah.
talk a little bit again about how a change order comes here, because this is actually a pretty good example. The diffusers and the athletic flooring revisions. The diffusers came through from the construction side, right? The flooring revisions actually came through the city. Those were changes in color. I think we had decided on a color, we went to bid with that, and then when we actually saw it, we realized it wasn't what was gonna actually work well for that. The majority of that 14,000 is actually that change for the flooring. One of the things that we're finding is that, and I think this has to do somewhat with the labor shortage that we're seeing, is that when we do a change, so when we change from one color to another, this also had to do with a little bit of the thickness and having to get another pad. But we're seeing increases in the labor costs associated with those things too. And so we have to be really, really careful. The city has to be very careful about, does this change mean that much? Does it make, I think of that 14,000, probably a good bit of it is, and that's in the report, is actually increase in labor. And so that's just to let you know, this is where change orders are coming from. To also let you know, we talked about this. We went back and said, should we change? Should we go back to what we bid? Should we go back to what we bid? The problem is that what we thought were the colors, they don't work as well. And so I'm putting it right out there for you. That, that's why we did this. This is flooring we're going to be living with for a good while. And we thought it made sense. And so that's just to show you that not everything is because, oh, there was, when we talk about kind of working towards trying to keep costs, a handle on costs, it's something that we do all try to do together, but full disclosure and on that one.
Thank you. Are there any more questions?
So if I can just get clarity, because it's always good to get clarity. This is a better flooring and it's a thicker flooring.
That's so.
I think the performance of the flooring here has not changed, so I think there's the same quality is being maintained between what was originally specified and this flooring.
Okay.
There's a little bit different installation method. Barb mentioned the padding and the thickness of the flooring in order to line up with the adjacent lobby finishes and also a turf area that we have in the same room. There's some coordination there, but from a performance standpoint, the products are equal.
Okay, thank you.
Call for the vote, or I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I motion to approve Wright Construction proposed change order PCO 21 and PCO 22 totaling $31,955 for the Community Center Washington Park Improvement Project.
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Carl,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you.
Before we move on, I would like Katie and Larry, if you want to come up, Larry's is with it's always hard to get your last name. I'm sorry. Pidgeot. Larry's with KAI, which is our engineering team. And we wanted to talk, and Katie's ready to talk just a little bit more about those upcoming anticipated changes. Just so, again, so that we're not just showing you a number and then bringing it forward to you kind of piecemeal over the weeks, but we want to do, because it is a bigger number, we want to give you as much information kind of prior as possible so that you can ask us some questions or ask questions when that comes before you.
Thank you. So one of the things we looked at with the anticipated changes is how would we categorize some of those items that we see as potential outstanding risk from a cost standpoint. So the dashboard indicates we've had some design modifications and also some field revisions that are required to the building foundations. So one of those categories of anticipated cost is that it's related to the structural system, both in the foundation and then how that would reflect up in terms of modifications to the actual steel structure of the building. The second category we would look at is the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. So again, the team is continuously doing a quality review of the design documents. And in this case, there are a few items that have been identified that required some refinements at this stage in the project. So with that are some cost modifications, and we're forecasting that in this anticipated cost. Also, like City Manager Sondag mentioned, there are also design decisions that continue to be made and coordinated by the city. A small portion of those anticipated changes are reflective of those discretionary items that we'll bring forward to you for continued approvals. And then lastly, just the items related to unforeseen site conditions. So the foundations for the building are 100% complete. That's typically a good sign that we've encountered most things to be anticipated. We do have some additional work at the maintenance building, some of the trails and paths where we may encounter additional soil conditions. So there are some placeholder items in that anticipated cost for those risks that have been identified in those areas. The last thing I'll just throw out there as well is our anticipated changes are a very conservative number. So we like to show you kind of the worst case with the goal of always working through and minimizing that impact. So as was mentioned, we don't want to come with you today at a small number and then come back in a few weeks and have surprises for things that are new or information that was not shared. So those are very conservative numbers.
What's on this dashboard right now is what you're telling me are very conservative numbers.
That's correct.
So Navigate, when they do some of their proposals, because they're doing an anticipated kind of based on just knowing what the subject matter is, they will put in a higher number. And in fact, that worked out today where one of the changes there'd been a placeholder of about 150,000 in there. Just before coming to this meeting, we got the actual or the initial proposal of what it might cost, and it was at 120, let's say 125. And so that's what and then Navigate and KAI will review that and see if there's savings to be had.
Can I ask Katie another question? Can you clarify? Did I hear you right? And been down the ground to foundations lately until I got filled. I've been taking pictures of foundations for this gentleman over here. It's been kind of fun seeing it as a whole and all this other stuff. You said the foundations are done. All the foundation work is done, the pillars, the come on, Greg, what are those things called? I should know by now. All that's done. We're
Yeah,
done with
The
cement.
below grade concrete is complete. Yes, so we have not poured the actual concrete floor slab, but
Okay.
everything that's below grade is completed with the exception of the foundation for the indoor playground. So one piece to still be installed there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And thank you for elaborating. Much appreciated.
I appreciate your being here.
Next item, please.
Sorry, I lost my place.
Me too. Number 9.
Number 9.
I know, I lost my place.
Here, what was that Beatles song? Is it called?
We're gonna break.
Number
into-
9 is authorization to destroy duplicate paper reports and to donate radar unit no longer in use.
Chief Andreski.
Evening again, Madam Mayor and Council. These items should not take long. Again, it is just excuse me. A request for authorization to destroy duplicate paper reports, which are criminal reports and traffic reports. Since 2020, we've only been printing off those reports on an as-need basis because everything is stored electronically, like everything these days. So there's really no need for printing off, wasting paper, wasting space. So we haven't been doing that for a couple of years. However, we do still have
old reports that are being stored that there's really just not a necessity for anymore. Because we can, download those and print them as needed. There are some things that like booking sheets, things like that, that may have some original signatures that will be kept on file for a minimum of 5 years for retention laws. Also, any original documents associated with reports are kept separately. So they would not be part of this document destruction. The document destruction would simply be copies of reports. And that is it. The other thing on this item is just to donate one of our radars that's been replaced. It's the oldest one we have right now, which was a car mounted radar from 2016. Most of the time our radars are greatly funded with grant items. This one in particular, there are several agencies that are in need of radars. So it would in fact be donated, but for us, it is no longer in use. With that.
Madam Mayor, I make the motion to authorize the destruction of certain duplicate paper reports from 2011 to 2020 and the donation of a Stalker Dual 2 radar unit to a Missouri law enforcement agency yet to be determined.
Thank you.
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Walt,
Yes.
Chairman Carl,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Next item, please.
Item number 10 is hearing from citizens, part 2.
Are there any citizens in the room that would like to speak again? And is there anyone, on Zoom? If you would want to speak, you need to afterwards fill out a card. Okay.
Okay, I've got a question.
No, you had it right the first time. No, you turned it off.
There you
Is it
go.
okay, thank you. I've got a question. It has been brought to my attention by some of the residents that there is a B and B, which is referred to as a bed and breakfast in the Indian Meadow subdivision. Is that a true factor or not? Or do you know?
I have no recollection. I would not know.
Okay, because like I say,
I
from
looked
a
at- When you brought it up earlier, I made a note to look into it.
okay, because a resident and brought it to my attention. And there's like I say, been some talks and people have bought property and said, yes, they would like to turn their property into a bed and breakfast. And there is one, we're not sure about it, but we believe there's one on Crockett. I don't have the address with me tonight, but there's one on Crockett. But the thing about a bed and breakfast, it's going to bring in a lot of traffic. There's a lot of children that go to school and you don't know who's coming in and out of the subdivision. So that's my question and my concern. So if you all could look into it, please let us know so that we can be aware.
Thank you. Is there any more comments this evening? Next item, please. So we are reviewing and approving the minutes from June 14th, 28th, and July 7th. Did anyone see any errors or misinformation or typos? Okay.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the council minutes from June 14th, 2022, work session minutes from July 7th, and the council minutes from June 28th, 2022.
Call for the
No, I'm not
vote.
looking at you. I'm just waiting.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Carl,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to speak with you right now.
Excuse me,
Good.
we have a city attorney.
What I'm about to say is what the city and the city attorney need to do. We did report to the city that we believe there's a bed and breakfast in Indian Meadows. And I don't know, you're saying
Okay,
you
I
don't
said
know
we'll
whether
look,
the
I said
city.
we'll look into.
So I'm letting you know we did. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 12 is city attorney's report.
Madam Mayor, I have no report, but would request a closed session for attorney-client communications and for issues related to negotiated contracts under 610-021.1 and .12. And would invite Ms. Ahold and Mr. Pidgeot and Ms. Tucker Knight, if you're interested in attending, you're welcome to join us.
So moved.
Call for the vote.
Second, you got a second.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Carl,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
So we're going to adjourn to a closed session. and we want to thank everyone for coming and for sharing with us your concerns. Are you at the pause? Thank you. Lily. We have returned to the city chambers from our closed session. There were no decisions made tonight or no actions taken. And I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Roll call. We're just done. Good night, everybody.